Good to be here. I know you have been listening to many discussion talks the whole day. And as Ramesh said when he had contacted me, he said, we'd like to hear a story at the end of the day. And the story about really the journey of entrepreneurship, of coming, as we heard earlier also, as a young person, and the privilege of really leading one great iconic American brands. So I have this is in my office. I keep on reading it and trying to remember this, because even though I say that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again but expecting different results, we think we are making changes, but the fact is a lot of times we are not really making changes which others see. So that is sort of something that always I keep in mind. And as Ramesh said, I came from Kashmir. Of course, you know, it's a beautiful place with lots of mountains, lakes. But unfortunately, in the last few weeks, there's been a disaster there. It has had floods that has devastated about 30% of the population has lost their homes. So I've been somewhat busy with a number of other people in the last few weeks of seeing what we can do. However, I came from Kashmir from a family that was a family involved with trade and merchants. My grandfather traveled what's now the Silk Road in Central Asia, China, collected arts and crafts. So as you can see, that the Chinese arts that he had there must have gone somewhere in China. So we came from a background of art and craft and even merchants. Well, that's my grandfather on the side. My father studied law at Aligarh University, and I'm in the middle. That's in Kashmir, of course, lots of snow. Well, in Kashmir, my main job was playing cricket. Some of you will know that. So to play cricket, you could not study something serious, so I studied English literature and political science. So you can really devote your time with the team. And as you know, and I was always, to a great degree, a captain. Now, the reason I'm sort of going over these is because these were the inspirations that led me to do a lot of things that I'm doing. That is, a captain in cricket plays with the team, cheers with the team, strategizes with the team. And that sort of helped me as we went forward. And in cricket also, our motto was, if you're not playing, you're practicing. Studies, as I said, came later. But that, of course, also led us to the way we run our enterprise today. And another one that sort of I learned was that I captained a team, and that to run one team became the motto. So we only run one enterprise, that's Ethan Allen. And that has its own implications. Well, then I came to America as a young entrepreneur. As you all know, immigrants are entrepreneurs. When you leave your homes, your families, you have really given up a lot. And I came as a young student to New York University. And New York University, as you know, is downtown New York. So I got my first job. I went to night school because I had to work during the days. So I worked in a little small company which printed envelopes. And I got a job as a bookkeeper, and I had never seen books or a calculator in my life, but I learned. And then the next year, a year later, the person who owned this company, only 4 people, he said, you really should work on Wall Street. I said, what will I do on Wall Street? Tell them you're a financial analyst. I was studying marketing. Well, I did. I went to the first building on Wall Street, went to every floor, and on the 16th floor was Bear Stearns, and I got a job as a financial analyst and started learning. And from there, went to Rothschild, and fortunately, in 5 or 6 years, I do not know why, but they did make me Vice President, Chief Financial Officer while I was studying marketing. But working also at that printing company, my grandfather in Kashmir, who you saw earlier, decided on his own to send me 12 wicker baskets of arts and crafts and said, sell them and then send us some money. So I lived in a small one-room apartment, so I had to worry about the logistics of baskets, how to sell. And anyway, our class had gone to see the chairman of Bloomingdale's, the great merchant. So that was sometime before the baskets arrived, I called him up. So, calling people, as we heard earlier, You got to take the initiative. I called him, I said, Mr. Traub, you may not remember me, but I had come there with our class. I need your advice. So he said, come over. So I said, I have all these baskets. I've got all these things. So he got one of the merchants, and anyway, Bloomingdale's became a customer. And I got into the arts and crafts business. And at the same time, I was, as a young person, and the times we came, we didn't have all the kinds of inspirations that we had today, or even the support that you all have. So, but in 2 years' time, I was fortunate, and I was able to buy my first Mustang. And it's only in America that in 2 years from coming there, I was able to do that and continued the business. Then it was at this time that one of my associates at Rothschild introduced me to the chairman of Ethan Allen. And because he said, I had no knowledge of what Ethan Allen was, so he said, he brought in again one of his merchants and said, do you get anything from Kashmir? They said, yes, we get this fabric, never comes on time, always a quality problem. So he looked at me and said, do you think you can help us? I said, absolutely. I had no idea what the fabric was, where it was made, how it came. So one question is, if you get an opportunity, you've got to be absolutely, but the next step is you've got to do it. So I then started working at it. It was not easy because, I had to really go back to Kashmir, do a lot of things to make sure the quality would be there. But anyway, got into the fabric business. And about the same time, a year later, he called me up again and he said, our supplier is having a lot of trouble getting rugs from Romania and India. Do you think you can help us? Guess what I said? I said, absolutely. I had no idea where the rugs were made in India, and I didn't even know where Romania was. So I took a week off, and fortunately, with help, that was my vacation, went to India, looked at it, and it is in Varanasi, Mirzapur, Badoy, and all of those places, and developed a rug business for India, for Ethan Allen. And a year later, he again calls me, and now I had a good job. And all we heard today about this challenge of giving up your jobs and becoming an entrepreneur. I also had, married and a young child. He called and said, why don't you come and work for us? I thought about it. I said, how about a partnership? He said, what? I said, at Ethan Allen at that time made furniture, was a big manufacturer of furniture, but all the accessories and products of that nature were purchased by the Ethan Allen licensees on the outside. So I said, I'll give up my job. Let's set up a company which will develop and import all these products. So somehow he agreed. And I set up a company. I named it KEA, Presumptuous Kathwari Ethan Allen. And so the company started, and I had to go. So I gave up my job and then started traveling all over the world. And those days, some of you may remember, Pan American used to go around the world. For $1,300, you could go to many, many places. I said, wherever Pan American goes, that'll be where I'll find the sourcing. Because for $1,300, one could do a lot of work. So I went to a lot of places. Of course, Kashmir is in arts and crafts. And in Italy was very, very important in those days. So that's myself and two associates I got in Italy, and we set up a company in Florence and in developing lots of products. That's India. You see me with a gun. That was just to make a point that I was inspecting rugs. I wanted to make sure they get the point that quality is important. And in fact, last week, a number of the folks from India, I had met their parents who I was dealing business with, and now the children and the grandchildren were all there visiting us in Danbury, Connecticut. I also decided right after Nixon and Kissinger went to China that I better find out what China was about. So I went to China, and China was in the 70s, early 80s, was a different world. It's like going to a different planet. So I made good friends. I worked with them. I traveled a lot, again on a skimpy budget, but we developed lots of products. And in fact, today with what amazing thing, this is a car that we had to get, and we had to siphon off gas from a bus so that we could go, because there were no gas stations. And that's not that many years back in China. Well, Ethan Allen is an 82-year young company. Now, we've heard about entrepreneurs setting it up, but Ethan Allen was established in 1932 when two young entrepreneurs from New York went up there and purchased, right in the Great Depression, a plant and started manufacturing furniture. Early American colonial was the relevant designs of the time. 85% of American homes had early American colonial furniture. So they started developing it, and they also pioneered what was called the gallery concept, establishing small Ethan Allen projections in large stores like Macy's and others at that time. And also established manufacturing. Then they continued to develop, and in the 1960s, they decided they took another innovative step. They decided to give up this distribution in large stores and establish freestanding Ethan Allen galleries. And they got great families, and one of the families is right here, right in Tampa. We have with us Jeff Bloom and Steve Hobbenstock, who run 2 Ethan Allen operations here. And their parents actually, they were Air Force officers in the Second World War. They came back and decided to get in the furniture business and got associated with Ethan Allen. So they have been associated with us for 60 years. The average association of our licensees is 35 years. And I had an opportunity of visiting Steve's father last year. He's what, 96? 97. And, still going strong and still the boss of the family, right? So this Ethan Allen in the 60s set up this network. So in the middle was Nat and Sal, he was the founder, and the other after them was the president. And our objective really was to develop the products, which I did for 7 years. We developed that company, and then they asked me to join Ethan Allen. And that's a change. When you go from an entrepreneurial company to join a corporate, it's a different culture. It's a story by itself. And in fact, I remember that, and he asked me that, and Sal asked me that I would like you to merge your little company with us. And I said, what would I do here? I'm an entrepreneur. I like to be on my own. So he said, well, what would you like to do here? I said, I don't want to come here, but if I come here, I have to take your job. Well, he was shocked, but I did take his job. And that's when I'm giving them an award. Then they took me, Ethan Allen is an iconic company. At that time, we had 31 manufacturing plants. We had about 7,000 people in our workshops, about 2,000 of them in Vermont alone. So I remember going to Vermont, and they gathered the 2,000 people. Of course, I'd been there before, but now I'm the president. And they looked at me and they said, he's the president with the name of Farooq, born in Kashmir. And these were 2,000 Yankees looking at me. So I looked at them and I said, you may not know this, but there's a lot of common between you and me. I grew up in the mountains, like you in the Green Mountains. But I don't want to say this, but in our place, these would be considered small hills. So they sort of looked at it. And the second thing I said, I know you have a saying, and we have a common saying that you have here in Vermont in the mountains, which is that most of the problems of the world have been created by flatlanders. And they all cheered. They said, yes, we agree. So I related with them. Well, it was, it's a challenge, because when I joined, I realized that the only way you survive in a large corporation like that is you've got to help make it better. If you think that they're going to help you become better, that's not an option. It's the other way around. And a lot of people make that mistake. So I became president, and one of the first things I did, it's on our website, you may be able to get a perspective of, I wrote down some leadership principles from my cricket days. This is how we ran our cricket team. That we got to play hard, which it means we got to work hard. If the leaders don't work hard, how are you going to expect your people to do it? You got to be accessible, you got to have change. And the last one, which people don't use in the business world, is the justice. So you got to deal with fairly, with everybody you do, with your own associates, most importantly with your clients, with people that we do business with. And that sort of has become somewhat of a culture at Ethan Allen. But you've got to do it, and which really means also you're willing to lose. Because if you only want to win all the time, the chances are you're not strong. Now, I also liked mountain climbing. I used to do that as a hobby, so I've continued to do that. And in the mountains, also a great teacher. we listen to a lot of great teachers here, but for me, nature has been a great teacher. When you climb mountains, you go high, 15, 17,000 feet, you get, start tough time breathing. You can get water in your lungs. You've got two options: keep on going and die, or come down. So coming down is okay. Stabilize and then go up. A lot of folks don't want to come down. They think it's a failure. It's not a failure. So I think understanding that and getting across to your own associates that yes, keep on going, and from time to time, you're going to get water in your lungs. Go down, come down, stabilize. So we do that. I've gone to Kilimanjaro, so I've had a lot of opportunity of doing it and going up to some mountains. My wife, she only went up to 15,000 feet, but that was pretty high too. We were lucky to have a family, and they grew up while we were going. And one of the first things I did when I merged my company with Ethan Allen, I always liked nature. We bought a farm, orchard. So I'm an apple farmer, spare time. So because of the fact, this other secret is this: because we only run one business, one enterprise, and it gives me an opportunity to do other things. If my focus was to go and buy other companies, we had lots and lots of opportunities, then you're spending all your time fixing problems created by others. One enterprise, in my judgment, running one enterprise, having one great team, and being the best you can be, to me that was the right thing to do, and that's what we did. So, I like to work there. I've got a tractor. There's a 1943 Jeep. This was done, I think 25 years back. These kids are all grown up. I still have the Jeep. Well, you see, again, the nature teaches you that. A great farmer there had said, apple trees need to be pruned every year, but if you prune the tree too much, you'll kill it. Now, we all are running businesses. We've gone through a great recession. So we had to prune. I had to decide how much do we prune. And we decided we're not going to overdo it because we'll kill the tree. So we learned those things. Then Ethan Allen, the 1980s was a great time for change. Ethan Allen was, like most enterprises, like my friends here, we had 300 Ethan Allen galleries, and 300 of them spoke in like 300 different voices. They all had their marketing programs, no different than what great automobile companies today go to the dealers, each one, they says, come and get it from me. So we had different retailers. They would have advertised, four of them would advertise in one newspaper. I felt that didn't make sense, so I said, we must speak with one voice. So, being again a history of political science, we had a conference, and I'm sure they will remember. In fact, one of our major conferences was right here in Innisbrook in the early 80s that you attended, and then it was a campaign to have people speak with one voice. Once they all came to our headquarters in Danbury, Connecticut, we have a sort of a campus. I had these signs all over, which said we must indeed all hang together, or we should all hang separately. Benjamin Franklin, when they signed the Declaration of Independence, it took us 3-4 years, and it was diverse people, not easy. Some call me Robin Hood because of the fact of what we were trying to do, that is equalizing between our big retailers, small retailers. But major thing we had to do was address logistics in our industry. We decided that we will deliver our products at one cost nationally, which was never done. Even big automobile companies don't do it now. So in 1980s, we looked at the logistics and started to create one of the best logistics network to deliver our furniture products all over the country. Furniture is a tough commodity. It's fragile, big. Then Ethan Allen was a public company, and it was acquired by a larger company in St. Louis, which came under a hostile takeover bid. And then in 1989, I had an opportunity, and I used my Wall Street contacts. I put a group together, and we took Ethan Allen private in a management buyout. And we stayed. And those of you today are shocked when you pay interest rates of 5 or 6%. We paid 13 to 18%. The prime rate was 12%. Somehow we survived. I don't know how, but we stayed private for 4 years, and then we went public again in 1993 on the New York Stock Exchange. And fortunately, for the next 10, 12 years, we Were able to generate over $1.5 billion of free cash, paid our debt, bought some of our stock back, made a lot of investments in our company. So ever since that time, we have been generating cash. But the 1990s came and it was again a change. Early American colonial was no longer the predominant style, and we were having it. So reinvention is critical. If you're 82 years as a young company, you cannot survive if you do not constantly and continuously reinvent. And the issue, as you all know, is the cycle of reinvention is becoming shorter and shorter. So in the 1990s, we had to change from what we call a colonial to a more classic product lines. We had to convince all our retailers at that time to change their storefronts from a colonial to what you see there. And in less than 3 years' time, 300 of them were changed. So it was all independence. So it took a lot of effort, but of course they all realized that it was important for them to do. And then comes 2000, and our industry was impacted by the impact of globalization. Up to that time, 70% of all furniture was made in America. In less than 10 years, 70% went offshore. It meant first, lot of manufacturing in the United States was down, and thousands of family furniture stores went out of business, similar to like happened in electronics, happened in electronics, in hardware, and all of those factories. Our industry was hit, so we had to decide how to cope with it, and we made the decision that we will maintain manufacturing in the United States. Now, I'll come back to that later. Now I'll get a little divergent because, as I said, I had time, so I've got involved with a number of other activities. Kashmir is unfortunately an area of conflict, problems. In the 1989, 1990, we unfortunately started with a tremendous amount of conflict over there. So I, along with others, got together and said, we'll do something to bring peace over there. So I've sort of worked on the sides on peace in terms of studies, groups, doing reports on Kashmir, from economic reports. Objective was to help shape the debate. So I spent 10 years shuttling back and forth between India and Pakistan and the regions of Kashmir under the last 5 or 6 years. Then they did, the ideas got there. Then, of course, the problem is there are lots of issues in implementing them. So I got involved in a lot of refugees areas. In September 11 to 12, when this happened, 11 happened, I took a full-page ad in the New York Times, the Washington Post condemning it. I got involved in chaired a number of reports on the question of what we were faced with. Got involved with meeting lots of religious leaders all over the world. Even the president had asked me a few times to go to Afghanistan. A few times I've been there, and other countries. This is in an Air Force plane, landing on an aircraft carrier. Anyone, if you've done that, or landing there and then getting up, it's almost cricket. There's in Afghanistan with the Marine General and the Afghan General, trying to help to get some perspectives. Worked with lots of our leaders, from President Bush and the Indian Prime Minister. I was for the last 4 years on the President's Advisory Commission on Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. So spent a few time on terms of meeting with the various presidents, trying to help shape the debate, to get the perspectives on. I'm on the board of the International Rescue Committee, which is involved with refugees, people who have, it's a fairly large organization with 14,000 people on the ground, and today, unfortunately, the biggest growth is in crisis, whether in Syria, Iraq, and everywhere else. I chaired Refugees International for 6 years, an advocacy organization. And then we go back to Ethan Allen. Now, we had the Great Recession really hit us like a tsunami, certainly our industry. It hit many other industries. So as we said, a recession does create, a crisis creates an opportunity. And one of the things I had to ask myself is, are we relevant? We have to ask that question now even more frequently. And times are changing so fast. So we said, are we relevant? Is our offerings relevant? Is our message relevant? Our structure of interior design network, is it relevant? We do have the right technology. And this vertical integration, and I'll talk about it is sort of unique for us, but is it relevant? So we had to question ourselves, and then we had to make changes. We also had to look at the landscape that's happening in our industry. Like, as I said, globalization, commoditization had a major impact. Lifestyle retailers have come up all in the last 4 or 5 years. Thousands of traditional furniture stores are out of business. You have mass retailers have come up, like in our industry, as has come in like Home Depot and Walmart and others. And the internet, of course, has made a major impact in how we do business. So we had to address all of these in the last 5 or 6 years. Otherwise, we would not be not only relevant, we would not be in business. So we said we've got to become not only relevant, but we have to raise the bar. Today, the issue really is not just to say that you're going to be doing well. You have to constantly say, how do you raise the bar? So we said, we must, if you have been manufacturing, you better be the best. Otherwise, you don't have an option. We had to make sure that we strengthen our interior design network, that we expand our offerings. Technology is important. So in the last few years, we have been looking at all of these. Now, for instance, as I said, manufacturing and logistics. We had 31 plants, but those were acquired from 1932. So in the last number of years, now we have down to 6 major plants in the United States, and we have opened 2, one in Mexico and one in Honduras, to support our operation. And then we have one of the, as I said, a fairly large, these are our distribution centers in different parts of the country supporting our network. Our manufacturing furniture takes a fair amount of space. Like in your technology, you folks don't have those challenges. Each one of these is 500,000 square feet of plants. So unfortunately, we have invested a great deal. To stay in manufacturing in the United States, or to have a major business in the United States, you've got to think long term, especially in what we are doing. So we have been thinking long term. That's the only reason we have been able to maintain our manufacturing in North Carolina, as I said, Honduras, Mexico. A lot of technology today. If you don't add technology, I'm talking in manufacturing. We, in fact, also generate electricity. In Vermont, which gets pretty cold, we have major operations in Vermont. It goes -40. And so last few years, we have burned 0 oil because we have been able to use our wood chips, then generate steam and develop electricity. So a lot of equipment, technology from all over the world we are bringing in so that we can remain Then we also have major distribution centers, which supports our other subsidiary distribution centers. We have one in Virginia, one in Oklahoma. Then our retail network, we have 300 design centers, 200 in North America, and 100 outside North America now. And in North America, 60% of those have been relocated because the ones that were opened up in the 60s and 70s, by 90s, they were not in the right places. The demographics had changed. And so now, in the last 15 years, we have been changing the retail, the environment, and 12 to 15 a year. The other major part of our business that we've been able to develop is really, and that goes along with what I heard here today, is developing a leading, what I would say we are the largest interior design company in the world. We have 1,500 interior design entrepreneurs in North America and 500 outside. So our business model that we have developed over the years is empowering an interior designer to work under our umbrella. They're employees, but they run their own business. And so they are entrepreneurs. Our management at Ethan Allen, about, I would say, close to 200 strong, is 75% women. Now, it was not that we were discussing and over here talking about women's role. Ours is, of course, a natural business. And the reason they came in there is because they were there, not that we were looking to promote a woman or a man. They were the most qualified. So today, our interior design network has given us an opportunity of differentiating, of providing personal service in a time when personal service is becoming obsolete almost. So we've opened up, like in the Middle East, we opened up a number of design centers internationally in Bucharest, in Amman, Jordan, in Seoul, Korea. This is the third one in Seoul, Korea. This is opening next month or in November in Doha, Qatar. The second one in Dubai. Now, China has been our major focus right after the United States. So we have 70 locations in China, 30 more coming up, and really it has been an amazing story. And this is the story of China. I went there 12 or 13 years back, met these folks who wanted to open this up, and I said, who's going to do it? They said, tell us and we'll do it. And they use their resources, they use their people, and today they have become one of the largest home furnishings retailer in China, our partner over there. You know, you see them, so this is in China, and you can compare it with the photographs you saw of a few years back in China when we were getting gas from a bus. Color. Then next is offerings. In the last years, we have been looking at, we have changed our offerings. In fact, right now, after 1 year of bringing in the best designers that we needed, we are changing 60% of our product lines. Now, for us, that's a major change because we got to make it. So we are going through, if you go through our Ethan Allen network throughout the country, it's in chaos, but I say manageable chaos. I like chaos as long as it's manageable. So we have Ethan Allen, 60% of our products are being changed. These are some of the new products that are coming in September, in October, and by next early spring, we would have implemented these. And all of them we had to design, we engineer. We, being a vertically integrated company, we go from the concept of an idea to design, to engineering, to manufacture, and we don't go and buy these products, especially the furniture. So it's a very complex, and because of the fact of our strength of our people, we're able to do this. They're all new products that obviously folks should go and look at them. The next one, of course, as I mentioned, is technology. And most industries in retail were late in embracing technology, and including us. But today we have a lot of resources we're putting behind it. Omni-channel is very important, which means for a consumer's point of view, they should be seamless whether they're buying from a store or they're buying online, and in fact, they both have to work together. And that's what we are doing. We have our Ethan Allen, our website. We have on mobile, you can go on our website and even design products yourself and even interact with our designers. And we got put in touchscreen information in our design centers, and now we've given them tablets so that they can come to the current age. This is our tablets in our design centers, our mobile, these tablets are important now because it's making our people more efficient. They can make house calls and do work right in their homes. We are just in the process of actually launching a new website in the middle of October. It'll be much more, you might say, customer friendly, easier to navigate, and easier to buy. When we started our website only 10 years back, it was much more informational. Today, you better be able to buy using our designers and going online. If not, you're left behind. So we invested a great deal. This is our new website. You folks haven't seen it. In 2 weeks, it's going to come up. Surprise. Yeah, surprise. Then our message, we send out close to 30 million copies of our magazines. We print them ourselves. We design them ourselves. So we get the message across about Ethan Allen, that certainly our craftsmanship, our quality is important. We talk about our interior design services, and this whole focus on the new classics is going through our advertising right now. Our national television, our direct mail, and all the various mediums are being used to get this message across. And this last year, finally go back into the basics. This is where Ethan Allen lived. He had a 500 square foot home near Burlington, Vermont. So I was invited to speak at his 250th birthday in Vermont last year, along with Senator Leahy. And it's sort of an amazing, of course, as you know, he helped create the state of Vermont and was a patriot and has sort of inspired us to create this whole vertical integration from the brand to the manufacturing and sources to the retail and to administration. And today the retail network in North America, 70% of them is run by the company itself, because many of our retailers, they are the survivors. They didn't have second or third generation like them to run it. Those of our retailers who didn't, end of the day, we took them over and put entrepreneurs, our own internal entrepreneurs, to run them. And finally, our business model is based on the fact that you got to make sure you keep your leadership principles in sight. And in our senior management at Ethan Allen, every year they have to write a report to me how they believe they have been able to work on these principles, and so that they keep them in sight all the time. And in my, as I know that motivated people can do wonders. A great team that works together. When we went to Mexico, and now we have 700 associates there, I said, let's have the similar environmental and safety standards as we have in the United States. Same thing in Honduras. Not required. People go there because they can get away with all those things. We said no. And you know what? People know it. They see it. And we have one of the most motivated workforce over there, hardly any turnover, because you're treating people fairly and with justice. It's good for business. But thank you very much. Good to be here.